Hello everyone, please press subscribe, press follow, press the bell so you don't miss any new clips. Adorable treasured fox, divine Dr. Mother overturning the heavens. Author by Co Chi Yi. Audio novels by Novelist. Chapter 371, Face Slapping 3. It was a few years ago. Lu Zifeng still remembers it clearly what his Shifu told him on the day of that person's entry into the Holy Land. Zifeng, you mustn't go provoking that person no matter what occurs. Otherwise, not even I, your Shifu, can protect you from the wrath of the three elders. To make matters even more damning, the surname of the individual was also Bai, like the one here. It's over. If Bai Yan truly is the one mentioned back then, the only outcome awaiting me would be an ending worse than death. Brother Lu, what did you just say? Bai Ji's eye was popping hard like it's out to fall out. How could Bai Yan's little follower be the Holy Land's own princess? Based on what can she make such a prestigious person be her own personal attendant? This is absolutely impossible. Like the foolish girl, the rest of the crowd had also caught wind of Lu Zifeng's outburst there. However, more were inclined towards disbelief than being shocked at the truth. While this state of confusion continued on for a bit longer, it was Qiu Shurong's third elder mixed sentence that shattered it and indirectly slapped Bai Ji across the face. Little princess, the Lord has tasked me to bring you a message on his behalf. He said that once you're done playing then you should go back, lest you bring unnecessary trouble for Xuanhuan. In light of the kind and gentle face the elder was making, it somehow carried an almost malicious intent for some reason, like it was meant for someone else. Now that did it. Feeling a thundering strike slamming down at her head, Bai Ji unconsciously staggered backwards until her back was stuck firmly to the old tree behind herself. From the bottom of her disgusting heart, jealousy and hatred came swarming out like a plague. No, I will not believe this. Nothing but a follower of Bai Yan's, how could she be the little princess of the Holy Land? Brother Lu, tell me please, tell me this is impossible. Shaking her head in self-deceit, Bai Ji's palish face showed how dreadful her emotions were right now. All of you must be lying to me, right? Bai Yan brought so much pain to my family and to me. How can she be gifted with all these good things when she did so much evil? As painful as this was, Lu Zifeng could do nothing but close his eyes in acceptance. Ji, I'm sorry, I fear I'm unable to help you this time. That girl really is the princess of our sect. Even up to this point, this foolish man still didn't place the blame on the girl. That's right. My precious Ji is so kind-hearted and good inside, how can I possibly blame her for this ending? Finally, with the last pillar of support on her mind crumbling into nothingness, the disgusting girl had gradually fallen to the ground, her body trembling while she wept silently like a pitiful child. How can the world be so cruel? How can Bai Yan be so lucky when she's nothing but a slut's daughter? Why? Dai Kang should have been mine, as well as Chu Yi being my follower, they all should have been mine. That's right. It's Bai Yan, that dirty horse stole everything from me. Tightening her fist until it's a clenched up ball, she slowly got up with a poisonous tint in her eyes. So this is all the Holy Land can amount up to. To have your very own princess become a personal attendant for someone of such low standard, it's baffling how your sect can even come this far. The people were shockingly stunned by this sudden outburst, their lips quivering with fear from the maddening insults thrown out by that foul mouth. Bai Ji, like the rest, Lu Zifeng practically screamed with horror in his eyes. Originally the man was still trying to come up with a plan to help his woman escape this situation, but that was instantly crushed when the crazed girl unexpected threw out this bombshell of a sentence. In his panic, Lu Zifeng could only rush up to cup that mouth from saying more. Let her speak. The gloom in Zheng Qi's face was so dark that one can't even perceive past it. First elder, Ji is only a tad overly straightforward, she. Bang. Before any more excuses could be made, the senior had already sent a palm strike right out and blew the ignorant man across the arena and into the crowded seats. Chapter 372, Face Slapping 4. Go on, keep going. Expressionless on his face, Zhengqi coldly orders the girl to continue. Towards this demand, Bai Ji only smirked like there's no possible consequences to her action. Bai Yan committed 3 major sins. First, she beat her own parents, that's the sin of unfilial piety. Secondly, she bullies her own sister, a crime of injustice. 3. She got pregnant before marriage and also went around seducing other men wherever she went. Such a sinful and dirty woman is unworthy of all that she has. What kind of lord does your holy land actually have to make his own daughter follow such a person? Now that's stunning. Speechless with her jaws gaped open, Chu Yi almost couldn't believe what she was hearing with her own ears. It was my old pops who told me to learn from Bai Yan. What? Does this Bai Ji want to replace my old pops to lecture me now? Then just when the mood got awkwardly dangerous, a soft and melodic voice suddenly chimed in and broke the tense atmosphere, thereby directly causing the 3 seniors to retract their murderous aura. Grand Shifu Shu Rong, it was Bai Xiakan asking with his brilliant big eyes twinkling with light. When are you going to return the snacks that you borrowed from me? It's been a while already, Grand Shifu Shu Rong. Though it was unintentional, but that misplaced question here definitely left the old senior in a bind. Freezing up in that old face, he starts blushing hard due to embarrassment. Now Xiakan, a child can't be so stingy. Otherwise, you won't be able to find a wife in the future. Didn't I only cheat a bottle from him half a year ago? Why is this little one so sharp in his memories? Mother said it, a debt must be repaid when it's time, while lending again in the future is another. It's already been half a year since Grand Shifu you borrowed my snacks, how can you go back on your words? Grand Shifu. These words were like a heavy stick, mercilessly smashing down at the hearts of all. But more than the rest, Bai Ji took it the hardest here. Nearly fainting away at the realization, she could barely keep her teeth from clacking due to how much they were quivering. If this Bai Xiakan is addressing these 3 elders as Grand Shifu, then what is Bai Yan to them? Of course, aside from the initial shock at the boy's manner of speech towards the seniors, there were also another reaction, and that was contempt. That's right, contempt for the display of being a poor role model for the younger generation. This old fella is already so old and an elder of the Holy Land too. Why would he borrow a child's snack to begin with, and not return it after such a long time as well? That is not the doing of a proper elder of his age. Is he really a chief elder like he claims to be? Old 3. While the crowds of onlookers were shooting a deploring look at Qiu Shu Rong for his terrible behavior, it was the second elder Renyi who roared out at his younger brother, how dare you go behind our backs and deceive little Xiakan of his snacks? What about the rest? Hand them over. Snipping his lips to the side unwillingly, the 3rd elder rebelliously states the truth. It's been half a year already, as if there would be any left. How can I leave such good stuff around? Not to mention these damn pills were concocted by Yan too, even money wouldn't be able to buy them. A humph. Coughing awkwardly to stop his second brother, it was Zhengqi who's the mature one here. Well, that was until this senior turned to face the little steamman with his evil smile. Xiakan, since you already lent all 3 some Dan pills back then, do you think you can also lend me some too? Don't worry, I won't be as bad as your 3rd Grand Shifu and not return what I borrow, I will definitely do. Forget about getting revenge for their precious disciple, forget about punishing Lucifing, forget all of that. By this point the 3 great elders of the Holy Land have already forgotten their initial purpose of coming today. Their heads only had one thing in mind, and that was to scam the boy for some more pills that they so desired. Blinking his big innocent eyes, Bai Xiakan apparently didn't understand the situation and answered honestly, thereby swinging the trouble in the other way. I don't have much snacks left, whatever extra I had is already in the hands of the Lan house after I gave them away. As for the rest, I gave it all to uncle the other day. Now I barely have enough to support myself because mother's been so busy lately. Why don't you ask uncle if he will share some with the 3 of you? Twitching in his mouth at being the subject of those mouth-watering eyes, Bai Xiao was rather troubled to be placed in a bind here. Coughing hard to make his voice clearer, a humph, I ate 'em all when I was fighting Mangongyi just now. Chapter 373, The Good Bok Choy Has Been Snatched Away. 1. What? Renyi, second elder, was hurting straight into his guts over this fact. Which one of you bastards here is that Nangongyi? Get your ass out here this instant. If not for a bastard like you, then all those good stuff wouldn't have been spoiled. Bai Xiao was Bai Yan's lifeblood, so naturally these three wouldn't turn their ire onto the lad. However, that doesn't mean they can't vent it all onto the other individual involved. Puff tilde. Before Mangongyi could even get up from the ground, the seniors had already rushed up to him and slapped the prince across the face. As a result of the impact, several of his teeth had come flying out. No. This has nothing to do with me, he cries out in his panic, losing all composure in the process. Bai Xiao didn't eat any smacks when he was fighting me, I don't know anything. Due to the baby boy calling the Dan pills as snacks for his own convenience, the three elders also addressed the precious items as such to cuddle him for more, thereby creating this confusion between those that's in on it and those that's not. Oh, that's right, it seems we still haven't dealt with the matters at hand yet. With his anger subsided after venting it out on the poor man by clobbering him, Qiu Shurong then returns his gaze back over to Bai Ji, who was sitting there helplessly on the ground. You there, what were you saying about my disciple, unworthy and unjust? Quote exclamation mark quote. The people gasped, hissing at the last statement. Bai Yan is really the apprentice of these elders. Oh, what we done. For an inner circle disciple, we ended up offending someone even more important. For a time, regret and remorse was all that could be felt in the air, the only exception being Nangong King due to his mother and son's action earlier. It's really her. Lu Zifeng's heart trembles with shock. Ordinary people may only know Bai Yan as the disciple of these elders, but he's not ordinary, he's a disciple of the Holy Land. Only those within would know how frightening her status truly was within the sect. While the rest of the onlookers were all gasping and wowing at the news, Qiu Shurong, third elder, on the other hand, only had one target in mind. You say my precious disciple is unfilial. Then what about your parents? You wrong would sell her off for a mere pill while your father would remain biased no matter how cruel your mother treats her. How are people like that worthy of her filial piety? That's right, if Bai Yan didn't escape back then from the Bai house, then it's unlikely she would have survived for the past 5 years, meaning Bai Xiaocan wouldn't have been able to come into this world either. Such a father like Bai Zhengxiang doesn't deserve any kindness from his children, not from Bai Yan nor Bai Xiao. As for you, as far as I know, you and Bo Ruo have more than once framed my precious disciple during her time in the Bai house and even tortured her on many occasions too. Now you got the face to claim injustice. With every word from the third elder's mouth came another level of fear for Bai Ji. Now because of her own guilt, the vicious girl could hardly make out another word and could only shiver there like a rattled doll. As for Lu Zifeng, the foolish man was already at a loss on how to take this and was a mix of green and white in his face. He never would have believed any of this if the information was coming from any other, but the one here was Qiu Shurong, a chief elder of his sect. For the sake of prestige and status alone, there's no way such a grand figure would lie about something so small. Have I really been deceived by Bai Ji during this period? And lastly, you mentioned about her becoming pregnant with child before marriage. So what? Even when she's carrying little Xiaocan, there would be plenty of men rushing to court her. And you say seduce other men. What nonsense. As if any ordinary men can catch her fancy, even our Holy Land's young lord has been rejected by her in the past. Chapter 374, The Good Bok Choy Has Been Snatched Away too. It's no secret that Chu Yifeng likes Bai Yan. Even the exotic plants currently inside the Holy Land are the results of the man scavenging them across the land for her. However, the woman's refusal was also placed at the forefront, this much the three elders are clear on. If Bai Yan can refuse such an outstanding prospect like their young lord, what other man can possibly be enough to catch the girl's fancy? Ellipsis. Looking at her third Shifu's proud face when spilling the bean on her past, Bai Yan simply couldn't resist a twitch in her lips. For some reason, she's got the strange sensation that rejecting Chu Yifeng had become an act worthy of gloating. As dumb as the conversation was heading in, it did have the perfect impact on Baiji and threw the bitch into a bloodless state. She may be ignorant and foolish, but she does know the word, shame, in her vocabulary. Though not much, it was something. You are lying to me. If the Holy Land's young lord really did court Bai Yan, then there's no way she would have refused him. A man of such caliber can never be refused. Stumbling to climb up from the ground, Baiji refuses to believe what she's hearing. Then again, this brainless twat didn't need to believe because the cold hard voice that came from behind had shattered her last will to resist. And why can't my woman reject another? In this world, there can only be one that would show such possessive dominance when speaking. It was Daikang, catching the attention of all with his glorious entrance that would blow away any competition. How come you are here? Looking over to hateful man that wouldn't stop meddling, Bai Yan forms a frown while she asked. I came for you, of course. Absolutely mesmerizing in that reply, his voice actually carried a hint of doting. The issue was, it's too small that even he himself didn't notice. Of course, the sudden intrusion wouldn't be taken kindly by the three seniors. Curling his brow, Qiu Shurong, third elder, was the first to ask using a vigilant tone, who are you? Naturally the dangerous man wouldn't miss the hostility shot his way. Raising a smirk, he went straight in for the kill, her man of course. Her man tilde, her man tilde. Those words echoed with devastating effect, blasting Qiu Shurong, third elder, into the blazing abyss that which was his old heart. If a description had to be made here for how the elder felt, it would be a farmer working hard to raise a bok choy in his field before having it suddenly plucked away by a pig right before harvest. Old 3, first stay calm, you must be calm, it was Renyi, second elder, who was the sanest here. We're in no hurry, let's see first on how this pans out. If Yan Yan really is being forced into anything, then we can make our move. Their precious apprentice have always been their treasure, so how can they allow anyone to bully or harm her in any way? Are you sure you want to do this with me? Rousing a grin, Daikang's handsome pair of eyes were brewing up a storm while it swept across the three. That did it, the one known as Qiu Shurong was enraged now. Smacking aside his second brother's hand, the third elder runs up to yell at his foe, stinking brat, you better stay away from my precious disciple. If you dare touch her, then I will. Daikang, Shufus, all of you stop this instant. Thankfully Bai Yan was present. With one order from her, an invisible sword was cast, which sliced down at the center and separate the two parties. Chapter 375, The Good Bok Choy has been snatched away. 3. Shifu, first turning to her third Shifu, I don't know what Yi told you before, but I would never allow anyone to bully me around. You can stop worrying about me now. With that said, she then shifts her attention back over to Daikang next. Third Shifu is my mentor. A teacher once is a teacher for life. I will not allow anyone to bring harm to him. Do you understand me? Of her three Shifus here today, Qiu Shurong was among the worst in terms of holding a temper. Therefore, if she doesn't put a stop to this today, then who knows what sort of trouble these two might pull out the next day. What's more, it's one thing if her Shifu can come out on top, it's another when it's impossible to outdo Daikang. Since Yan Yan is already saying this, then I won't dispute the matter with you. Huffing a grunt, Qiu Shurong nevertheless still held an annoyed expression on his face. My precious disciple is such a good bok choy and she's being snatched away by this pig. Though the pig is quite the looker, but he's still a pig. But unlike the irritated elder here, Daikang only grinned like he's amused. Then without indication, the man swiftly made a grab for his woman and pulled her into her embracing hold. Forgive me, father-in-law, I was rude just now. I promise you, I will never allow any harm to come her way again in the future. At that, Qiu Shurong immediately widened his eyes in horror. Boy, who are you calling father-in-law? Who is your father-in-law? I don't even have a daughter, so where did a son-in-law come from? Little Yan Yan calls you Shifu, so me calling you father-in-law isn't wrong either. This Why does it seem like it's the case? A tad confused by the logic, the elder had to take a minute to work out he's been had. Showing a layer of anger, quit trying to fool me, I never agreed to letting you have her hand in marriage. Also, move that pig trotters of yours away from my precious disciple. Towards the demand, Dai Kang only had this to his reply. Showing a smirking grin, he selflessly kissed down on those plump rosy lips to make his claim. Naturally this didn't sit well with the old fella at all, none at all. Jumping up and down with steam shooting out his head, Qiu Shu Rong third elder wanted to instantly attack this frivolous thief who's trying to steal his precious treasure. Ellipsis. Meanwhile back in the crowd, Bai Ji could only clench her fists hard like a million ants were nibbling at her heart. The feeling was unbearable and she had no way to vent the frustration. Under normal circumstances, isn't it supposed to be the disciple following their Shifa's command? Why are the elders of the Holy Land so obedient to her? And even more unacceptable is how Lord Kang is reacting. Just one word and he's willing to behave himself. Then while all of this was going on behind the background, Dai Kang did something totally unexpected again. Releasing his lip, he suddenly called out to the distant, "Since you are here then why are you not coming out?" This undoubtedly startled Bai Yan who was still in the dark. But before she could ask for some answers, the dashing figure that's far off into the sky had gradually revealed himself. "Brother." Overjoyed by the man's appearance, Chu Yi exclaims with glee in her eyes, which also caused the crowd to focus their attention to the sky. The little princess of the Holy Land called him brother. It can't be. This man is the young lord of the Holy Land. Bai Ji was already filled with resentment to begin with due to Dai Kang's existence, now the young lord of the Holy Land is also here. As a result, the young girl finally caved in her will and puked blood from her mouth due to the intense rage and jealousy from within. If the man was ugly then that's one thing. Maybe that would give her some comfort, however, that's not the case here. Adding in the fact that the girl had a dreaded personality, it's not all that surprising that she would take this so hard. You did it on purpose didn't you? Bai Yan glares at the shameless man for that kiss. She knows, the smooch was a deliberate attempt at luring Chu Yifeng out from hiding and not because he wanted to take advantage of his dominant position to sexually assault her in the public. Chapter 376, The End of the Bai House 1. If I say I only discovered him by accident, would you believe me? Making an incredible smile, Dai Kang was unconvincing in the least. Towards that obvious lie, Bai Yan could only stay silent while pursing her lips. In truth, she had no way to be certain about it in light of that sneaky tone because she too only noticed that extra scene in the sky after being kissed. Godfather, are you here to see me and mother? Unlike his parents, each having contrasting views on Chu Yifeng's entry, Bai Xiakan on the other hand was ecstatic at the man's appearance. Showing a faintish smile that could drown out the toughest lady, the man remains as surreal as ever. Yes, I couldn't be at ease about your mother, that's why secretly tagged along from behind. Now that didn't sit well with Dai Kang at all. Tightening his grasp around his woman, he puts on a possessive stance like a dog protecting their bone. My wife has no need for others to protect her. I can do that just fine. This always overbearing, always tyrannical, always dominant man can listen to her every whim, the only exception being something like this where he's supposed to let go. In response to that clinginess, well, there wasn't any response from Chu Yifeng at all, not to the public's eye anyways. However, if one investigated closer, they would certainly notice the tiny tinge of bitterness in the corner of his mouth. Even if Yan Yan rejected me, I am still her godbrother. I have an obligation to protect her for that alone. In the picturesque man's view, the man found no shame in being rejected, hence the reason why the crowd would break out into a rousing stir at his words. If earlier Bai Ji were only jealous and hateful of her half-sister, then right now she was most definitely overwhelmed with a crazed madness in her eyes. That can easily be discerned by the droplets of blood slowly seeping out of the corner of her mouth due to the immense pressure her jaws were making against her gums. But the girl didn't exactly have time to be doing something like that now, would she? Stiffening in her back, the deceitful bitch rigidly turns around following the realization of an intense glare shooting her way. It was Lu Zifeng's. That's right, the man whom she sought out as her guardian angel was now currently being drowned out in all sorts of emotions now that the truth's come forward. There's shock, there's anger, but there's more of a disbelieving factor than the rest because the man finally discovered how foolish he's been due to his blind belief in love. For that, the consequences were being expelled from the Holy Land. And the most ironic part of it all wasn't just that, it's the fact that even till the end, he only had the notion of trying to come up with an excuse to help Baiji escape. Painfully closing his eyes, Lu Zifeng could no longer deny his mistake. Of course, there's bound to be those who couldn't accept their faults even to the end. Take Mangongyi for example. Curling into a fetus position in one corner of the stage, all the while forgotten by the rest, he looks up towards the brilliant woman using those contrite eyes of his. This woman should have been my wife. If not for Bairuo scheming to make her pregnant before our marriage, things never would have come to this. By then, supreme glory and limitless prestige would have been mine. Yet, I mistook a pearl for a piece of deadwood. I missed such a great woman. A humph. Zhengqi, first elder, abruptly interrupts the mood with his cough. Young lord, let's leave the young people stuff for later tonight, shall we? I believe the first order of business is to settle the scores for my disciple, lest we let the world believe our Holy Land's member is easily pushed around. Despite that faint nod from Chu Yifeng, the picturesque man never once removed his gaze from Bai Yan's figure. It's as if his eyes could only accommodate her in this world. Oh right. Renyi, second elder, frowned. We had someone go tell Bai Zhengxiang to crawl over here to meet his end. Why isn't that person here yet? Chapter 377, The End of the Bai House 2. Chu Yi was rather startled by that last remark from the senior, second elder. From what I recall, the three of you didn't bring any people along with you, right? How did you have someone go inform that Bai Zhengxiang then? It can't be that you asked Lu Zifeng's people to pass on the message, did you? If that was the case, then it'd be strange that the disgusting existence of a father would willingly come alone by himself to meet his end. Don't worry, the one I sought was a random passerby out in the streets. Showing a confident smile, Renyi, second elder, then casts his gaze across the crowd. Sure enough, his eyes immediately picked up on the movement of a suspicious figure turning away from the area. Stand right there. In response, the middle-aged man in question instantly made a dash for it as if a frightening predator was right behind himself. This undoubtedly infuriated the second elder, which causes the senior to personally rush forward in order to snatch the individual down. What are you running for? It's not like I will eat you or something. So did you do it? Did you go pass on my message to that Bai Zhengxiang? Now that's when everyone's attention was shifted over to that specific individual in Renyi's grasp. There's most certainly surprise hovering in the air, but more than that, it's a strange sense of confusion to those in on the secret, especially for Bai Yan herself. Shifu claims he found a passerby to pass on his message, and that's the one. It can't be right. That lucky. Without deviating from the script, the current Bai Zhengxiang was already sweating down to his balls there. From white to green, this haggard-looking middle-aged man was ready to faint at any second due to what sort of future awaited him. He only intended to come witness the good show after discovering the connection between his daughter and these three gramps. That's why he's here at this hour. Issue was, his legs could never compete with the three chief elders of the Holy Land and ended up coming late. Chu Yifeng's entrance didn't hit Bai Zhengxiang all that hard initially. After all, he didn't know who the man's identity was. However, as soon as Chu Yi started to cry out the word, brother, for all to hear in the wave of words like, Holy Land's young lord, that's when this person realizes the seriousness of the situation. Shifu, delightful in her smile, Bai Yan was truly shining. The person in your hand is the one you were looking for. In my hand. What does she mean by that? Widening his eyes after a brief second of stupor, Renyi, second elder, then suddenly screamed like a rabbit being stabbed by a pitchfork. You are Bai Zhengxiang, that coward. Due to the intense rage and fury in his words, the second elder had indirectly released the full might of his pressuring aura, thereby nearly suffocating the individual in his grasp. So it's a coward like you that's been bringing so much pain to my precious disciple. Gnashing his teeth, the second elder then slams the person directly into the crowd as he roared out, "If I don't destroy you today, then even the heavens wouldn't stand it." Among the three elders here today, Qiu Shurong, third elder, had the worst temper, with Zhengqi, first elder, being the calmest. As for Renyi, second elder, he's the most moderate of them three, neither hot-tempered nor overly calm. Therefore, to see even this senior exploding with rage was evident of how immensely angered they all were at being deceived by the very person that they sought to punish. Sore all over still, Bai Zhengxiang nevertheless attempts to climb up from the floor after being smashed to the ground. But that's only after he was surrounded by the guards that came from the Holy Land. Sir Lu, anxious in his eyes, the bastard turns to Lu Zifeng for help. "I beg you, no matter what, my daughter Ji still became yours for a short time there. Help me." In response to that shameless request, Lu Zifeng purses his lip with regret in his eyes. "Didn't your family already ruin me enough? If it weren't for you people, would I have offended the elders? It's bad enough that I was fooled into that, but why would you have me go up against Miss Bai Yan there? Do you people even know who she is?" Startled there at that last remark, Bai Zhengxiang, as well as the rest of the crowds, were all shooting their gazes over to Lu Zifeng this instant. They didn't miss the extra meaning there. Chapter 378, The End of the Bai House 3. Can it be Bai Yan still has another identity? Towards the ignorance before his eyes, Lu Zifeng could only sneer in self-mockery. "Our Holy Land status is well known by all, but do you know there's also a holy island within our grounds? Our sect leader wouldn't even bestow that place to his own daughter, yet he would gift it to Miss Bai Yan over there. So, do you now understand the importance of her position without the Holy Land?" Shuddering at the truth, Bai Zhengxiang had to keep shaking his head repeatedly to deceive himself from the truth. Impossible. How can the Lord of the Holy Land be willing to give it to an outsider when he wouldn't even give it to his own daughter? Ho! Closing his eyes in regret, Lu Zifeng had to take a moment to collect his composure. Miss Bai Yan's alchemy is already at the level of being beyond comprehension, so much so that even the three chief elders had to turn to her for help. So tell me, how can the Holy Land not keep her firmly appeased when she's so capable? This was also the reason why Lu Zifeng's Shifu would explicitly remind him not to offend the owner of the Holy Island back then. Offending an alchemist of such caliber was equivalent to self-genocide. It's the dumbest thing one can make. Like a lightning strike slamming right down into his soul, Bai Zhengxiang's body trembled uncontrollably until his gaze fell upon the reddish figure far away from himself. "No. I can't die. That's right. I still have a final lifesaver I didn't use yet." Once again filled with light from those gloomy and lifeless eyes, the bastard instantly shot up from the ground to make a dash for the girl's side. However, before he could make it any further, only a few steps, the guards from the Holy Land had already stopped him in his tracks. Yan, I am wrong. I really know I am wrong now. No matter what, I am still your biological father. Please overlook it this time. I promise you I will definitely change my ways. Pleading with his eyes, this shameless bastard continues to beg for his life even in this situation. Yet, the one to respond first here wasn't the woman herself, it was Daikang, who got irritated by the relentless entanglement. Shooting a cold hard glare at the bastard, this demon lord instantly causes the coward to shrink back in fear. Fortunately, things didn't get any further than this because Bai Yan had finally cut in. "Now that you mentioned my biological father, I do have something to announce." Waving a yellow sheet in the air with her hand, Bai Yan proudly presents it before the crowd. "This letter was left to me by my mother Lang Yue. I only got my hands on it recently thanks in part to Her Highness the Dowager's effort." With that said, her gaze then slowly fell upon her so-called biological father, which for some reason greatly rattled the person in question. "The letter is from my wife." His voice trembles as he spoke because an ominous feeling was quickly taking hold within his heart. Ignoring whatever expression Bai Zhengxiang was making, Bai Yan continues on with her story. "My mother only got sick back then due to Yurong's mother poisoning her. That's right everyone, it's Wei Fang who murdered her. Wei Fang was the real name of old Madame Yu. Prior to Yu Rong sending for her mother to live with them, the old grandma had always been addressed as such. Impossible. Bai Zhengxiang was ghastly in his complexion, she couldn't have poisoned her. Perhaps, maybe, just maybe even this bastard was having a difficult time believing his own words. If it was in the past where he held an unwavering trust towards his wife and the old lady, then yes, he would have waved this off as nothing more than an attempt at slandering the pair. However, things have changed, he's seen their true faces already. Chapter 379, The End of the Bai House 4. The second thing, retracting her gaze from the distraught figure, I like to announce that my mother Lan Yue actually gave birth to a stillborn back then. At the time it just so happens that an old acquaintance of my mother's was seeking shelter for her own child. As such, my mother secretly buried the stillborn and swapped the baby out with me instead. Lan Yue gave birth to a stillborn. Compared with old Madame Yu poisoning Lan Yue, this news was far more reaching and instantly stirred up a storm within the crowd. If Lan Yue gave birth to a dead baby years ago, then wouldn't it mean Bai Yan isn't Bai Zhengxiang's own flesh and blood? So, Bai Yan paused, letting her words sink in before smearing at the bastard in question. What more do you have to say now? Sure enough, not even Bai Zhengxiang can continue to cling on to his last glimmer of delusion for survival. Slowly collapsing to the ground, he repeatedly mumbles to himself in complete horror, "Impossible, my wife couldn't have given birth to a stillborn, impossible." What's impossible? The dowager could no longer stand it anymore and stepped forward. I also read the letter myself. It clearly stated in there word by word, so there's no falseness in that. Furthermore, as if a good child like Yan Yan could ever be your flesh and blood. In fact, I doubt even Bai Xiao is yours either. Painfully closing his eyes, Bai Zhengxiang now knows. His Bai house was finished for certain this time. Whatever words he can come up with, whatever excuse he can think of, nothing will save him from what's to come. Sister. By now Bai Xiao had come before his sister's side. From that young handsome face, the lad was extremely frosty, like a sharpened blade ready to strike. I want to personally avenge mother's death. Let me repay the blood debt today. Not going squash that conviction in her brother's eye, Bai Yan readily nods before turning to the side. Yi, go with my brother and take several of the guards with you too. I don't want him to dirty his hand too much with blood. No matter how far Bai Xiao has come in his growth, the lad was still the very same clean and gentle boy from way back. For that reason alone, the woman refuses to let anything dirty or foul to her brother's heart. Don't worry, leave this matter to me. Patting her chest in assurance, Chu Yi easily made her promise. You three over there, come with me. Yes, princess. Responding with swiftness in their voice, the guards needed no further instruction to move. Of course, there's bound to be those who are not happy about being left out. Puckering her lips in discontent, Dai Xuanhuan demon princess looks towards Bai Yan in anticipation. Sister-in-law, is there anything you need me to do? What do you want to help with? You can ask me to do anything. That's right, so long as she doesn't need to stay so close to her brother, then that's all fine and dandy. Her nerves simply can't take so much fright in one day. Then you can go to the Lan house and tell my grandfather to prepare some rooms. My 3 shifers here are going to stay the night. After musing over the options, Bai Yan figured this was the best course of action without making a mess of things. Thank you, sister-in-law. Not needing any encouragement, Dai Xuanhuan instantly rushed out of the area like a shooting star. In a blink of an eye, her figure was already out of sight. Naturally, this sort of frightened rabbit reaction wouldn't go unnoticed by Daikang himself. Wrinkling his brow, he turns to his woman for answer. Am I that scary? Likely able to sense the tinge of depression in that voice, Bai Yan somehow didn't have the heart to hurt the person any further. You are often scaring her, so it's expected that she would be that way around you, is it not? Oh, are you trying to defend for her now? Raising a grin, Daikang was rather pleased there. No, I am just telling the truth. Is it? Pulling the woman into his embrace, Daikang's voice became meltingly soft, like the female there would break at the slightest force. It's already a great leniency on my end that I'm not beating her. You can't exactly expect me to start treating her as good as you now, can I? No one in this world can make me treat him in such a fashion, not even my sister. For some reason Bai Yan felt like she's stuck in a great dilemma right now. Am I supposed to be feeling lucky, or should I be feeling sympathetic for Xuanhuan? Don't worry about her, she has someone to dote on her instead. Acting as if he couldn't see the black lines hovering over her face, Daikang continues to do his smooth talking. I only need to dote on you and that's enough. But what about me? It was then a third voice chimed in from the side, thus breaking this lovely mood. Chapter 380, The Foolish by Xuanhuan. The first to respond here was Daikang with his domineering gaze. A son will eventually grow old. When the times come he will have his own wife to love him. Now that's a real shocker. Acting like he's been struck by lightning, the little steamman gapes his mouth open in horror. Is Daddy father planning to give me away to someone else? Didn't mother say Daddy will try to steal me away when I'm found? How did it end up become the other way around? Mother, frowning with grievance in his eyes, Bai Xiaocan turns to his mother for help. I still feel it's better if you pick Godfather instead. He is so kind to me. If not, then Uncle Wong from next door is still good. Although he's a bit ugly on the surface, but at least he wouldn't throw me away to someone else and is rich. Towards his son's damning request, Daikang's reaction was to narrow down his eyes in a dangerous fashion. And who is this Uncle Wong? This time it was Bai Yan who took the liberty to explain, lest there's any more misunderstandings. He lives next door and is the father of Xiaocan's friend. We only saw each twice so far. Sure enough, that swift explanation managed to calm the storming man down instantly. I thought so. You would never like a man that's carrying a son around, nor would you like someone that's ugly. It's not possible between you two. The implications of his words were very direct already. Since they held a son together, then she can only like him, and since he's so seductively handsome, then Bai Yan can only like him instead of anyone else. Then again, this sort of belief wasn't without its reasons. Perhaps the woman herself didn't notice it yet, but Chu Yifeng definitely did. When Bai Yan gets close to Daikang, her eyes would only have room to accommodate that person and no one else's. Yifeng, she murmurs to herself, only then realizing what she has done by ignoring her godbrother. Looking up in shame at the picturesque man's face, Bai Yan didn't know what to say in her own defense. Her position within my heart can never be replaced, even if I can't have Yan Yan as my own. However, Daikang, if I ever learn of you failing her, then I will exhaust all of my means to bring her back to my side. His expression remains as calm as ever, yet it also carried a threatening factor in there. Because of love he will not force her, that's why Chu Yifeng would let her go. I will not give you that opportunity. Daikang firmly states this in his own defense. And for similar reasons like the former, he too will never allow Bai Yan to leave his side for the sake of love. Even if that means forcing her to leave with him and make her resent him for a lifetime, he will do it still. Showing endless sorrow in that smile, Chu Yifeng then returns his attention back to Bai Yan and recalled the first day where they met. It was the elders who brought her to their home. At the time he never thought such a woman could ever move him so much, nor did he ever imagine his obsessions would grow to the point where he cannot bear to see her hurt. Yan Yan, I respect your choice, but if he ever do you wrong in the future, then don't forget, the Holy Land will always be your home. As long as you are willing, then I will always stand behind you. Now it was Bai Yan's turn to be confused. Blinking her big wondrous eyes, she didn't have a clue what's going on. My choice. When did I make a choice? Nevertheless, she didn't have any intent to correct that misunderstanding. In her view, it's best that Chu Yifeng can forget the feelings he held for herself. Only like that would it be the best for them both, because she knows she can never return that feeling. As for the elders watching this on the side, they could only exchange a look of helplessness between themselves. They pitied their young lord because aside from their precious disciple, the picturesque man over there would only show a face like the winter's frost to everyone else. That's how important she was to him. But as the old sayings go, feelings cannot be forced, and the three of them can't exactly force this either. Of course, that's only under the premise that Daikangs doesn't disappoint her expectations. If he does though, the three seniors here can swear to the heavens that they will separate the pair if it's the last thing they do. End of the chapter. Adorable Treasured Fox Divine Doctor Mother Overturning the Heavens will be read in 10 chapters for every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday. Please leave this sound novel and press subscribe, follow, and the bell so you don't miss any new clips as well. See you.